is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all. We are back for the 4th edition of Total Football Talk Extra. I am your co-host, Drew Willingham, and I've got to take a second to introduce the man of the hour. Welcome, Ryan McCarthy, back to the program. Welcome back there, sir.
My head hurts from all that head banging. I don't have the hair for it.
Total Football Talk
Extra.
Man, well, we missed you last week. As I told you when I was in the comments for no credentials required the other day, it was kind of a dumpster fire, it felt like internally. But it turned out to be an okay product solo, but at the same time, it was not the same as what we had started out with the first 2 episodes of Total Football Talk Extra. So glad to have you back this week. We have got some action within the CFL to talk about. We might even take a little dabble into this past Monday night's NFL game just because, I might be a little biased or something, but we'll get into that maybe potentially. But right here and now, we have to get things started and look at this at the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2 on 2 on 2. Ready? Ready.
Shout out as always to our guy Cole Johnson for the awesome transitions that we have here. But with getting it started with the opening drive, we got to acknowledge that with week 16 in the CFL, the BC Lions were on by, and the 7-7 Lions, it's a really good time for them to be on by. Let's leave NSYNC out of it. Okay, let's leave them out of it. This is football, Ryan. It's football. Maybe like tennis. I could see that happening, but not here, not on X. Now, when it comes to this, the BC Lions being on by the 7-7, they're still hanging in there despite the things that have been going on with them. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and we'll be able to talk about them a little bit more here in a few during the preview for week 17. But starting off, we'll take a look at the first Friday game when we review what we've got here for the opening drive. And in that first Friday game, we'll take a look at the Saskatchewan Roughriders are back. The name, I could say it. And it all is boiled down to a recent transaction that was made for someone that was on the Redblacks. And that being Raquel Armstead, 25 carries, 207 rushing yards. The man didn't get the ball into the end zone, but he was setting up others to get into the end zone throughout this game. I mean, you got to take a look at Trevor Harris, 248 passing yards and a touchdown, along with 3 carries for 17 yards and a touchdown. Shea Patterson, the backup quarterback to him, had 4 carries, 7 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns as well that were set up by Mr. Armstead throughout all those other carries. Keyshawn Johnson, not related to the man in the NFL. We'll say
Give him damn ball. Give him damn ball.
He's a distant relative, but looking at him, he put up 6 receptions for 90 yards on the day, along with Keon Schaefer-Bakers, 5 receptions for 80 yards, catching that 1 lone passing touchdown from Trevor Harris to help give them the 37 points. You look at the Roughriders defense, 2 sacks with an interception, That interception being by Jameer Thurman, by the way, along with the field goal kicker, Brett Lowther, perfect on a day, 3 of 3 with a long of only 40 yards. But hey, he did his job. He did it well enough to help get this victory for the Roughriders. Now, when it comes to the Calgary Stampeders, Jake Meyer. Oh, yeah. Jake Meyer, man. I cannot wait to go off on him. Kind of like how I went off on Uncle Rico on Monday with Cole. When it comes to Jake Meyer, again, dumpster pelican worthy type stats, a little bit better than what he showed previously, but he still threw an interception, which is why he still gets the dumpster pelican award of this game. 197 passing yards, like I said, but 2 touchdowns passing. Dedrick Mills adds 10 carries for 74 yards and a touchdown, along with Markin Mitchell's 6 receptions for 48 yards. And Jalen Philpott catching one of the 2 touchdowns by Jake Meyer with 6 receptions for 47 yards and that touchdown. Stampeders defense, absolutely terrible in comparison to the Roughriders, even though they gave up 8 more points. It's still, in my opinion, when you give up over 30 points, you are absolutely trash. Stampeders defense, again, 1 sack. That's all they put up on the day. And the field goal kicker for them was one of their lone highlights, especially for special teams, as he had 1 of 1. He was perfect, but only had 1 attempt on field goals. 41 yards was that long of that one. All that being said, I know it was like verbal diarrhea for a second, but when you think about it, what are your thoughts when it comes to this game right here, my man?
It's verbal diarrhea. You just can't hold it in. So I'm coming into this Total Football Talk Extra raw dogging it again because I did not watch any of the games this week. I watched the replay. I watched the highlights. But
as long as you're not doing it Diddy style, we're good.
No. There's no that. I don't have a Costco order of 1,000 baby oil bottles waiting for me. There's no freakouts here. A Total Football Talk Extra. What have I been saying over the last couple of weeks, Drew, about the Saskatchewan Roughriders? What have they been missing?
The running game. The running game. With Alouette. With him being banged up this year, he hasn't been the same since he returned. So, I feel you.
Yeah, I believe AJ Alouette is done for the season, I believe. So that's why they brought in Rykel Armstead, who was released by Ottawa a couple weeks before. I guess he didn't work out. Things didn't work out for him there, even though he was the starting running back in Ottawa. But Roughriders find a way. They sign him. They bring him into the offense, and he has 207 yards in his debut. That's amazing. And they controlled the ball. They did what they needed to do. You know, this Saskatchewan Roughriders team. I've been saying they've been missing a run game. Been missing a run game ever since Willett went out of the lineup. And now they've got it with Rykel Armstead. Let's see if they can duplicate this effort this week when they face, well, interestingly enough, the Ottawa Redblacks at home. So I don't think he's going to hit 200 yards rushing again. I mean, Ottawa's defense is pretty good, but he's doing it. This is against the Calgary Stampeders team, who defensively looked pretty strong at the beginning of the season, but has waned dramatically in the wrong direction. They've downward spiraled, all right, over the last month or two. And it's just been bad. It's been bad for the Stampeders. They can't force turnovers, they can't sack the quarterback, and now they can't stop the run. And it turns into an 8-point loss at home. And essentially their season is, the standings might look like they're still in it, but effectively this game, it's, to put it proverbially, they put a bullet in this horse, and this season's over. And for the first time since 2004, it looks like they're going to be out of the playoffs, out of the Grey Cup playoffs. The amazing streak is over.
Hey, since this show is not on the radio yet, and I don't think Cole will have an objection to the word I'm going to use. It's not one that we would allow to be on an audio broadcast.
Is this going to get spicy?
It is.
Yes. Love it.
In the words of my man Hawk, who is quoting another gentleman from Instagram, got your ass. That's exactly what happened in this game. Got his ass. That's exactly what happened. And I can't wait to show him this clip later when I go to work tonight. But when it comes to this game right here, Reichwell Armstead got their ass because he played like he didn't play like this when he was in Ottawa. Okay, he had some decent games, but he was putting up like 10 and 12 to 15 carries a game and still getting like 40 yards. Right. But you got to put that all along with the pieces around him. The Redblacks are a solid team, and the Roughriders started off as a really, really solid team throughout the first month and some change. So at the first at least 4 to 5 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And then they dropped off when, just like you had been talking about, and I've been talking about when Alouette, got hurt. They have not been the same. Like they have not been the same on offense. Their identity has changed. And you and I have talked about it when it comes to the CFL. Cole and I have talked about it for 56 consecutive weeks. When NFL, with the father show of this, the running game, no matter if it's NFL, CFL, UFL, it all starts with the running game. You have to establish the run. If you cannot establish the run and set the tempo with that, you're going to struggle all game. And we've seen teams win without having a decent running game, but it's been ugly. And you've had to literally have a shootout with your quarterback throwing for so many yards and, putting up more contributions than the normal quarterback would, because you're trying to suffice for the fact that you don't have for that missing piece that you're not getting the workload out of. So, which statistically it doesn't work out as great as when you do have a decent running game. I mean, let's point to the NFL. Look at what the Ravens have been doing this year with Derrick Henry, and look at what, even though I can't really say the Eagles, but they're not even anywhere close to the comparison of Derrick Henry, but in the Ravens, but looking at this right here for what it is, I'm happy for Reichwell Armstead. I'm happy for the Roughriders, because for the last couple months of the year for the CFL, I just may be able to start getting hype about the team with one of the best jersey designs and logo designs in this sport known as Canadian football. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I'm happy that you're happy again. It's good to see the smile on your face when it comes to we're talking to the CFL. And an unrelated story, we might talk, kind of spoil it a little bit, talking about a little bit NFL. Your Washington Commanders, 2-1, the commies. As I call them the Command Skins, because I can't figure out a name. Which name to call them? So I call them the Command Skins. Hey, they're 2-1, so I see it's great to see the big smile on your face when it comes to football these days.
I appreciate it, my man. And it's how it's been, for a while now for for anybody that's a fan of that team known as the Commies. Like, it has been absolutely wild. It is not what it once was. What we've been seeing for the past few years, at least through the first few weeks of the season. I'm not going to get too hype, because we already know what happens when you drink too much of the Kool-Aid. Eventually,
the sugar high wears off.
Yes, the sugar high wears off. But eventually, also, like you said, and I was going to just follow it up with, you crash. You're just going to crash, okay, from the sugar high wearing off. But you brought up something, and this doesn't fit with this show as far as what the graphic transition is, because it's from a show that I have on hiatus right now. But the meaning of what is about to take place, you're gonna buy into it. And that motherfather in breaking news is this. Ryan brings up the Commies, and it was just confirmed yesterday that during week 8, when the Bears come to FedEx Field, your boy's going to be in attendance.
Yeah.
He's going to be at FedEx Field.
Yeah.
Going with a friend from back in the school days, back in the day, a friend that I've known for, over 20 years now. And we had a conversation yesterday. Some tickets were purchased, and we're only sitting 3 rows up. They're really great seats. We're not going to talk about prices, because the prices have gotten ridiculous. But
sometimes you got to treat yourself.
Yeah, and I've done media stuff for the Commanders. It was like the last one was 2 years ago, but he and I haven't gone and done the old school tailgating party in 8 years. So with some health scares not too long ago, and your life flashed before your eyes. You think about little moments like that you haven't been able to do in a while, getting up with your friends, doing something cool, and we're doing it. So that's what we're doing on October 27th.
Nice. Very cool.
Shout out to my man Paul Kelly for making it happen. And speaking of shout outs, let's take a look at what we got here in the chat. Sick Diggy is running wild. My man, your man, everybody's man throughout the Snowman crew is here in the Sick Diggy chat. And he says, TFT XTRA is brought to you by Sleazeball Meaty Subs, Canadian Slam Subs. Whether it's Canadian bacon or maple syrup glazed turkey galore, this is gonna slam.
It sounds
You know,
meaty. Meat and delicious.
There's meaty context. And
Canadian meat mountain right there.
we're gonna have to create this because that sounds.
You forgot the smoked meat from Montreal there, Sick. Just give you a heads up. Get that smoked meat in there, my friend. A little pastrami in your life.
Yes. He's gonna throw it out there in the comments. Something wild's gonna come from what you just said at some point. It's coming. Sure. He also says, and God smack there's quench. Good God Almighty, it's God smacking great. I'm awake now, finally.
Yeah.
Somebody get at Ryan McCarthy a GX t-shirt. In fact, somebody get one for Drew Willingham as well. As I read that, we are back for Total Football Talk Extra.
If you're not down with that, we got 2 words. Let's get it.
I headbutted my microphone. I was so excited. Here we go.
Yeah.
Stream Elements, as always, drops in. Subscribe now and never miss out on new content. If you are a new viewer watching on Comey Media, as well as Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Even if you're checking out through Ryan's platforms as well, through X, they're not getting my money, but they're getting his some way, somehow. Or no, you're grandfathered in, aren't you?
Nah, they're getting my money.
They're getting
my
money.
It's okay.
We'll talk more about that later. I still haven't drank that Kool-Aid yet. But right now, you're not getting my money, X. But get on Ryan's platforms, on ours, between Comey Media and Sertoba. Thank you, as always. If you are new to the platforms, please subscribe and hook us up with the like, share, and subscribe for our content. Costco's. How much? Tree fitting?
Tree fitting.
Tree fitting. Costco's. No, he purchased all of that baby oil from certain wholesalers at Ryan McCarthy. He got that discount.
Apparently. Rate of 1,000. My God.
I mean, you're worth like what? $500 million? You don't, or $1 billion, whatever it was. What kind of discounts you need?
Scared money don't make money, okay?
Hey, yeah, I like that. I like that. It's old school right there.
Yeah, right. Ooh, I got this.
All right, do
it. Me. This verbal diarrhea is brought to you by Clearwater Laxative brand new colon cleanse. Clearwater Laxative. When things get muddy, Clearwater is your buddy. And funk-free air freshener. Get that funk out of there. Now available in lacy lavender, loony lemons, and subtle sandalwood. Don't forget Jumpy Jasmine. Coming soon.
So from the laxative to the funky remover, I love it. I love it. You
kind of go together.
Yeah, they do. They really do. Like Sick is on mother, father, and fire today. When it comes
maybe he had a nap.
Yeah, maybe he did. I definitely needed it. You already know how my night's about to go. But and then it says like a racehorse. Where's that? What's
Get that funk out of there like a racehorse.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, Ryan, you might have said to read the rest of them. That was absolutely phenomenal. Keep it up, my man. And we are just into the Saturday games because our other Friday game is actually going to be our, spoiler alert, game of the week. Let's take it to Saturday. Here with Saturday, we'll start it off with the 3 p.m. game review. When we look at the Montreal Alouettes beating down the Ottawa Redblacks 24-12. Cody Fajardo, as I'm getting his name right.
Hey.
For some reason, I was reading it like I was reading a menu at a Mexican restaurant. Okay, give me a break. I love tacos. and I was rolling the J in there like I only could. Okay, I think I had gone on like a bender of tacos for a while when we started doing CFL, and I was like Fajardo. And Ryan laughed, as he should, since he knows what the actual pronunciation of it was. But going back to Fajardo-led Montreal Alouettes, 24-12 over the Ottawa Redblacks. Got to take a look at his stats. Didn't do anything major. Threw for 226 passing yards, 7 carries for 29 yards on the day. Did have a rushing touchdown, though. So, I mean, he did contribute with that right there. When you look at the actual rushing numbers by Walter Fletcher, though, they weren't much better than Cody Fajardo's, as he only had 1 more carry, 8 carries on the day, and he only had 7 more yards with that extra carry for 36 total yards on the day. He did add 3 receptions for 39 yards, getting to, a little over 70 all-purpose yards on the day for the team, which definitely helped them out, put them in positions to get the 3 field goals by Jose Maltos, who was 3 of 3 on the day, along of only 30 yards. It's got to be probably the shortest number I've ever reported on the slate, where you have a long of 30 yards. Now, with all that being said, we've got to look at Charleston Rambo, who put up 4 receptions for 77 yards on the day, and Tyler Snead, who put up 3 receptions for 40 yards as well. The Alouettes defense was what, in my opinion, what really kept them in this game. They had 3 sacks on the day and 2 interceptions, one by Deontay Ruffin and the other by Jeff Canton Arku. Looking at what they did on that side for the game, we got to take a look at the other side where they are still having issues with the quarterback position for the Redblacks, which has been part of their dismal play throughout half of their season, I would have to say, in my opinion. Looking at Drew Brown, he put up 69 yards passing and had 2 interceptions.
Ooh, not so nice.
No. Good number on the first one for laughs, not production-wise, but good for the laughs. 2 interceptions. I guess you can laugh at that too. But Jeremiah Masoli comes in to clean it up, puts up 218 passing yards and a touchdown. You got to look at Caleb LeBourne's numbers on the ground, 13 carries for 71 yards, also adds 2 receptions for 11 yards. But Justin Hardy remains the spark of this offense, remains to be the human highlight reel for this Ottawa Redblacks team, despite the fact they only put up 12 points on the day, because he has 9 receptions for 117 yards and caught that lone touchdown pass from Jeremiah Masoli to help them get to the 12-point total. Dominique Rhymes, also another person who's been putting up huge contributions for the offense this year during their peak times. 4 receptions for 59 yards on the day. And the Redblacks defense did have 3 sacks to match the Alouettes' 3 sacks, but didn't force any turnovers, which definitely hurt their cause later in the game. When putting all that in perspective, what are your overall thoughts when looking back on this Saturday afternoon contest?
Yeah, Montreal's defense they're back. They're back. They've had a couple. They've struggled a couple times for a couple weeks, especially in that game against BC where they allowed 34 points. I believe that was a season high for them, allowed for them. But this defense they're gearing up for a run. And their offense is kind of like Novocaine. You got to give it a while for them to work. So, Cody Fajardo, I had to laugh when you mentioned, I'm on a Mexican kick. It's like, yeah, can I have 5 Cody Fajardos, please? What? It's like 5 chicken Fajardos. Not gonna call fajitas that now.
I'm gonna laugh if you come back at some point with a story of, I went out to eat and I ordered 5 chicken Fajardos. They didn't know what the expletive I was talking about.
The hot sauce got hot. But he did just enough to contribute to the team. And here's the big thing. No turnovers by the Alouettes. They had 1 fumble, but they recovered it. It was a strip sack by the Redblacks early in the game, which was recovered by the Alouettes. But the Montreal defense, they came up big. They had 3 interceptions. They had 3 turnovers. One of those interceptions becoming a pick 6. That was the one by Deontay Ruffin to start the game. And, they did just enough. I mean, the offense is just going to do just enough. And I've talked about how this year they haven't had the running game that they had in the past. William Stanback going to BC. Walter Fletcher is the number one back, but he's not the bell cow type running back you want to see, you want to have in the CFL to get to the good yards, get to grind out the good yards. But this is an offense designed by Jason Moss and Anthony Calvillo, two legendary quarterbacks in the early 2000s, the 2000s and 2010s in the CFL. This is going to be a passing attack. This is going to be primarily a passing game. That's the offense is going to be predicated on, and it showed. You distribute the ball. Fajardo threw the ball to how many different receivers did he find today? Did he find on Saturday? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different receivers in this game. So
it's kind of like Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills, the NFL.
Yeah, he's just spreading the ball around and success. They had as a result of it, they had 17. It produced 17 points. So good on them. On the other side of the ball, it seems to be a weird thing in the CFL these days. This year, this is the most chaotic season I've seen in a very long time in the CFL. 2024 is just absolute chaos, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Drew Brown had a bad game, got pulled, 2 picks. Masoli comes in, he does his best to keep the Redblacks in the game, but the score doesn't indicate how dominant the Alouettes were in this game. Masoli had 218 yards, but the defense or the Alouettes kept them off the scoreboard for the most part. With the exception of that touchdown that Masoli threw to Justin Hardy, their defense did the job. Their defense did a great job of keeping the Redblacks out of the end zone. And this defense, the defense played really great last season, going into the Grey Cup, and they won the Grey Cup, and they kept that momentum going throughout most of the season this year. So that defense is going to be relied upon heavily when the playoffs come around. They've earned themselves at least one home game, whether it be the East Final or the East Semifinal. Let's see what happens in the standings. I mean, right now if you look at the standings, they're currently 6 points up on Ottawa with 4 games to play. So unless if they lose 4, 3 of the last next 4 games, this division is theirs, and they just need to win one more game to clinch it. In my mind, if they win 3 of these games, 3 of the 4 games, they're going to win this division. And it showed. I mean, Ottawa, great. Hey, thanks for playing. They've made their strides during the season, but they're not there yet. They're not there just yet. They got to figure out some things offensively. Their defense is pretty good. They had 3 sacks on the day, but they produced no turnovers. And that's the biggest difference in this game.
Yeah, and doing that is going to make a huge difference. When you can't force any turnovers, it definitely did make a difference. And I agree with that as well. I mean, it well said when it comes to that right there, sir. And we got some comments we got to acknowledge before we move even further. Ooh. Snowman is in the house. Hey. Says extra. It's for you, my man. Snowman, Ryan's man, Snowman, everybody's man out here in the streams. Good afternoon, gents. The International Irish Italiano super villain, my apologies, Espresso McCarthy, and the big game hunter of Dumpster Pelicans worldwide, Sensei Drew Willingham. Bow to your sensei. We are live for Total Football Talk Extra. Shout out to Vicola and Snowman for jumping in with the comments. Hope you guys are still with us. If not, we understand you probably got some things going on yourself out here in these streams. Actually, I did have a nap at Brian McCarthy, says Sick Dicky.
As long as it's not a dirt nap, any nap is good.
Yeah, Sick's probably a little tired. He gave me a call this morning. We had, a pretty interesting conversation, and he was doing some grocery shopping. So, Sick does things the old-fashioned way on foot. where he's at. So he probably was a little tired. Probably did need to take a nap. I feel for him. So it's at the same time, I would need to take a nap if I did all that walking as well. So I'll let you read this one.
Me. The cheeky appearance of Ryan McCarthy is brought to you by Sleazeball Meaty Subs, Quebecers Choice. Available in smoked meat or pastrami with a side of poutines. And Godsmack Thirst Quencher Deep Red Cherry and Zesty Lemon and Lime. Be it deep, dark, or zany, it's Godsmacking great.
Sick, still dropping dimes out here in these streams. Let's go ahead and take it to our next game. See, here with the next Saturday game, it was a 7 p.m. contest, and I clicked the wrong button. Here we go.
There we go.
Now, looking at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they absolutely crushed. I mean, it wasn't that big of a difference in score, but when you really look at it, they did crush them. The Edmonton Elks put up 14 points on the day in this Saturday 7 p.m. contest. Looking at how things went for these two teams, Zach Collaros continues to struggle. In the previous game, he had thrown 2 interceptions and 2 touchdowns, cuts those numbers in half this week, puts up 191 yards in the air with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. The one thing that truly kept them in this game, and the same thing with why they've been able to roll off these wins like they have since they were absolutely starting the year off terrible, Brady Oliveira, on the ground, set the tone for this game right here. Look at what he did. 18 carries, 127 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns on the ground as well. Also added 2 receptions for 11 yards. My apologies. Again, I'm still waking up, people. So, yes, 2 receptions, 11 yards. Ontario Wilson, who has been the number 1 receiver for this Blue Bombers team this year, 5 receptions, 55 yards, and catches the 1 lone touchdown pass from Zach Collaros to help get them some more points. Carrick Wheatfall shows up on the stats with 3 receptions for 43 yards on the day. And the Blue Bombers defense, they had 2 sacks and an interception by Michael Ayers. When it comes to the Edmonton Elks, they had to turn to their backup quarterback, Trey Ford, who put up 131 passing yards on the day with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions thrown. Geno Lewis adds 6 receptions for 112 yards and catches that 1 lone touchdown pass from Trey Ford. Justin Rankin, though, was the highlight, in my opinion, besides Geno Lewis for that team. And it came from his contributions on the ground. 14 carries for 157 yards on the ground and 1 reception for 3 yards, giving himself 160 all-purpose yards on the day. The Elks defense, 1 sack and 1 interception by Darius Bratton. Ryan, what are your thoughts when it comes to, I know we just reviewed a Dumpster Pelican game between the Alouettes and the Redblacks, but this one was about the same, if not a little bit worse. What are your thoughts on this overall?
Yeah, the run game was the name of the game in this particular game. All right. So both teams had two running backs go over 100 yards. Justin Rankin, impressive performance. Unfortunately, the Elks couldn't get into the end zone. But Winnipeg did just enough to keep the Elks out of the end zone at home. It was also a surprising game because we didn't know what to expect out of these two teams. Both teams coming in with momentum. Winnipeg coming in on a winning streak. Edmonton winning 5 out of 6. Both coming off a bye week. That was most important. So we had to figure out what kind of teams, what they were going to do in this game. And offensively, they decided to go, all right, we're each going to do ground and pound. We're going to do ground and pound, and we're going to figure out which team is going to bend but not break. But Winnipeg, they led the team. They finished on top of the time of possession game with almost 34 minutes of time having the ball. And Zach Collaros did a good job controlling the ball. Only had 1 interception. But here's the wacky thing. All right. You want to hear the wackiest thing about this game, Drew?
What's that?
Brady Oliveira finally scored his first touchdown in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's put up a lot of numbers. Yeah, He's put up a lot of numbers, but yeah, you're right. Didn't score.
He hasn't scored a touchdown at all. Chris Dribbler, even though he's out for the season, he still leads the league in rushing touchdowns with 10. So the fact that Brady Oliveira finally got on the scoreboard, and he's leading the league in rushing yards with over 1,000 yards. Broke 1,000 yards this past week. So was the name of the game for Winnipeg, and they did enough. They scored more touchdowns. And Brady Oliveira had 2 himself. Zach Collaros had a passing touchdown. They did just enough, and they meet this week. So the points, the big thing for both teams was trying to get as many points as they could, because when it comes down to the final playoff spot, in the season series, they only play each other twice this season, which is a weird schedule. They got to figure out who's going to score the most points in this series. So Winnipeg has a 13-point advantage going into this week's game. This was just an odd game. It wasn't an odd game, but this was just a very surprising outcome in terms of how both teams managed to control the ball, and they did it on the ground, and good for them. Now, it's Trey Ford, unfortunately, had a bad game. 131 yards, 1 passing touchdown to Geno Lewis. I mean, most of those 131 passing yards were to Geno Lewis for 112. So it's too bad for the Elks. After this game, if they lose this week's game, it may be too late for them. Judging on the standings, especially if Saskatchewan wins this week. So that the 3 teams who are currently ahead in the West Division might be starting to pull away if they all win. So Winnipeg is on top, BC, then Saskatchewan, and this might be the week where we start to see that separation between the top 3 teams and the bottom 2 teams. But here's the thing with this week's game. Spoiler alert, another quarterback change for the Edmonton Elks this week. They're bringing back the law offices of McLeod Bethel Thompson, so it might be a different result this week. We don't know, but it's just the way that this season has gone in the CFL. It's just been so chaotic, with so many teams having different quarterback changes, whether because of injury or because of bad performance. And this is another example of that. Trey Ford having it's a disappointing game, to say the least. Coming off a bye week and having that momentum of 5 out of 6 wins snapped by a team that's had better momentum, coming into this game. They've won. They started the season. They started the season on a bad note, and now they're 8-6 and with 16 points on top of the West. I believe they're 8-2 since their 0-4 start. And this is a team that's been hot. So Winnipeg doing the Winnipeg thing.
Now, they play each other again this upcoming week. We'll talk about that here in a few when we talk about the 2-minute drill, but it's just wild to think. The hot take that I had at the beginning of the season on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and if they win this upcoming week against the Elks, they clinch a spot in the playoffs.
Yep.
Like, that is absolutely wild. I would not have thought that. So I'm hoping, even though that little clip in that short, I think the TikTok one did pretty good, but whether it's a TikTok one or the YouTube one, I'm hoping that somebody over there in Canada showed that to somebody on that team, and they're like, "Who's this guy think he is?" And that sparked the success. I would love to hear that turnaround story, as I'm loving to the fact that we are covering how much of a turnaround they have made in the second half of this season. I mean, it is definitely night and day comparison to what they were when this season started. It's like the Roughriders and them had switched uniforms, is what I was thinking for a while, because as the one team was ascending, the other one was descending, then they switched roles. So it's wild, but definitely is an experience for them, and I know that they will be happy if that happens, because looking at that, if I read that right, is that 8 consecutive seasons they will have made the playoff. Yeah, 8 straight seasons they will make the playoffs if they get this win this upcoming week over the Elks. It's absolutely wild. So, you know, I'm pulling for them now. Not like I'm pulling for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but I'm pulling for them, Brian McCarthy. Why? Because I threw so much shade on them at the beginning of the year. I deserve to be punished with their rise. So I'm switching the gears now. That's my goal there. But Sick throws in the comment while we were talking about this game, says Ryan McCarthy needs to have a tag along on his lap to pull off the supervillain look.
Yeah, that's my cat. He's currently in the other room sleeping, so he's not with me right now.
Yeah, let the feline chill. You know, it's time to have fun here. You know, get up here another time. He'll come on in when he's ready. But you know, we've gone through the first 3 games. We do have one more, and ironically, when we talk about that, I got to make sure we have this. Do we have this transition? No, I'm gonna have to add it. It's all good, but basically, we have to talk about the game of the week, and we have to take it back to Friday. And when it comes to the game of the week that was from Friday, we have to look at the one team I would not have guessed a while back that I would have been ballsy enough to put in the game of the week, and that is the Hamilton Tiger Kitties. Yes, did in this game, because looking at this, they only won by 2 points, but I felt like because of the production and what I saw in the highlights that they deserved another opportunity here at the game of the week. And the Argonauts hung tough with them, but we're going to talk about our man who I can't get his name right, but he had an impact on this game as well, because they could have won the game had it not been for his one key mistake. Now, looking at that, again, Hamilton Tiger Cats win this game 33-31 for our game of the week that happened this past Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Looking at this, Bo Levi Mitchell had 362 passing yards and a touchdown on the day, along with 3 carries for 19 yards, which I would not have guessed that from Old Man River there, running the ball 3 times. But, you know, he had enough pressure. He probably had to get out of the pocket, so he didn't get smothered by the defense. James Butler had 11 carries on the day for 58 yards, also added 6 receptions for 44 yards, puts over 100 all-purpose yards on the day. Shamar Bridges, 6 receptions for 82 yards, along with Giovanni Robinson's 4 receptions for 49 yards, also catches that one lone touchdown pass from Bo Levi Mitchell to help put points on the board. The Tiger Kitties defense wasn't really that active, but they had 1 sack, which helped out. They had an interception, but that one came from a man with a really, really cool name, and I hope I don't butchers it, but I'm going to give it a shot. Stavros Katsantanis. Is it good? Was that
Close enough?
Stavros. I know I got that night.
You got that right,
because I've heard that on TV before, but last name not as common. It's not like Johnson. Okay. You got to look at the kicker, though. You know, this man, I have talked about him all year long, put up consistent numbers for this team and has been part of why they've been winning games. You know, you can say what you want about my opinion out there in the comments, guys. I know Ryan will probably agree with me. When you have a kicker that's putting up 6 field goals on the day and out of 6 attempts was perfect on the day. You know, that's why I call him the Lehio Maehiho kicking specialist. You got to look at Mark Lehio or Mark Leggio, whichever way you want to say it. Canada, USA. I'm going to say it like I want, and I'm going to say Lehio, because Lehio Maehiho is a pretty cool, in my opinion, maybe I'm being biased, it's a pretty cool nickname, Lehio Maehiho. Now, his long on the day was 48 yards, but he was perfect out of 6 attempts. On the other side of the ball, Chad Kelly is still coming into form after being back for a little bit from that 8-week. He was suspended, right? He had an 8-week suspension.
Yep.
Okay.
9 weeks. Yep.
9 weeks. Okay. So he's still getting into form. This is the 7th week, you know, but he's still keeping the Argonauts in the games. At the same time, if you were asking me this same questions I'm about to answer with you about this team. With the matchup that they had against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, I would be bashing them even harder like 6 weeks ago if they had a game like this with the Tiger Cats. But the Tiger Cats have been progressing, not like the Blue Bombers, but they have been playing better than the way that they started the year. So I have to give them a little bit of credit when it's due. Speaking of Chad Kelly, though, 255 passing yards with a touchdown and an interception. He did add 5 carries for 19 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day rushing. So he did have 3 total touchdowns to give them 21 of those 31 points. Kadeem Carey, 7 carries for 65 yards on the day. Devarius Daniels, 4 receptions for 118 yards. DeMonte Coxey also added 5 receptions for 45 yards. And Makai Polk had 2 receptions for 42 yards on the day, but caught the 1 lone touchdown pass from Chad Kelly to help keep this team in the game. The Argonauts defense was a little quiet, but they did put up 2 sacks. But the big stat that I'm going to cover with Ryan right here is with the man named Liram. Don't even get me started with his last name, but a man named Liram is what I've been calling him. He put up 3 field goals on the day, which is pretty respectable, but it was out of 4 attempts. He missed 1. His long on the day, though, was 49 yards. He did contribute with 11 points, but when you consider the fact that this team lost by 2 points, had he made that 4th attempt, they would have won by a point. So with all that being said, I broke down the numbers, broke down some of my opinions along the way, and butchered a few names. Besides all that, Ryan, what are your thoughts when looking back on the game of the week?
I think the Labor Day game catapulted Bo Levi Mitchell, has catapulted him, because he's looked every bit of the quarterback that he was in Calgary before he got traded to Hamilton. Last year was a bit of a struggle for him because he was injured most of the season. This season got off to a slow start, but ever since the Labor Day game, he's been playing super well, and he's actually in conversations now for not only most improved player, but also most outstanding player in the CFL for 2024. He leads the league currently with in passing yards. I believe he's over 4,000 for the season so far, as of week 16. Yep, 4,044 as of week 17. He's actually far and away leading the league in passing yards, and with 4 games to go, he could break that 5,000 passing yard mark. But even if they don't make the playoffs, he's in that conversation for most outstanding player. But I would say his play over the last 3 to 4 weeks, it's been stellar. It's been stellar, and it showed in this game.
Wrong button, my bad. Didn't mean to cut you off. My bad. I was adding
more breaking news.
I was adding something for you for later. I'll compliment what you're saying here at the end. My apologies.
No problem. But what was I try? Okay, so here's the big stat: time of possession. Hamilton had the ball for over 11 minutes more in this game. And Bo Levi was doing a great job, spreading the ball around. 8 different receivers had at least 2 receptions in this game. That includes the 11. That includes the the 10 receptions by 6 receptions by Shamar Bridges. He had 12 targets, but 6 receptions, 82 yards. He spread the ball around. And I'm sorry, he got the 8 receivers got at least one reception. But the stat that matters the most is the fact that they had the ball back with less than a minute to go. That's way too much time for Bo Levi to do his thing. Drove him down the field, got him within field goal range, got him in just enough in Toronto territory past midfield to set up Legio for that game-winning field goal on what was, when I saw in the highlights, a very slippery BMO field in Toronto. So, Argo's doing their thing. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to be dangerous offensively. But like I said a couple weeks ago, this is not the team they were last year when they went 16-2. This is not the same team. And that now the East Division, especially the final playoff spot, that race is going to be so much fun to watch over the next month, just to see what happens in just either team. Starting this week, they both have very tough games. Both Hamilton and Toronto have very tough games ahead of them this week. We'll talk about that in the next 2-minute drill. But this was a very entertaining game from what I saw in the highlights, and the statistics say every bit of it. I would like to see more of the running game for Hamilton. Yeah, James Butler in this week. We've been seeing mixes of him and Greg Bell. James Butler came in this week and had a pretty decent game, over 100 total purpose yards. Didn't get in the end zone. That's okay. Sometimes we can't score like we want to, but but he contributed. James Butler contributed. That's why he was brought over. That's why he was brought over from BC have this kind of contribution for this team. So yeah, I mean, and I also got to give credit to the Hamilton Tiger Cats defense for doing just enough to keep. I mean, yeah, they allowed 31 points. Okay, everyone has an off day, but their offense came through, and it'll be the defense has been very entertaining since Chris Jones came aboard as defensive coordinator after he was let go as head coach of of Edmonton. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do for the next 4 weeks. Hamilton, I mean,
it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out. But I mean, look at the Tiger Kitties and putting them here in the game of the week. It was a total
surprise, motherfucker.
It was bleeped out. It'd be all right. But looking at what you said, there was a certain button that I wanted to click earlier. I accidentally clicked the breaking news one. But I guess we'll get back to that with this.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Story's this. I can't find the playoffs button. So we'll have to get that for next week's episode. I will look for it this weekend and add it back on there. But until then, I'll leave you with this.
Guess what? Shut up. You'll be on a fucking plane.
Oh, no! These people are probably watching this going,
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Yeah, we speak it. So
Acknowledge me.
When it comes to Ryan's take, somewhere in there, I was waiting for him to say this.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
I'm having fun clicking the buttons.
Yeah, you are.
But no, looking at this for week 16, there were some surprises. The great surprises for those people out there who've been pulling for some of these teams who have been struggling throughout this year. I mean, the holidays aren't here yet, but they're getting some holiday gifts in some ways.
It is spooky season, though, so watch out.
Absolutely. And there are some people out there. I mean, you and I are excited about it. I mean, it's an excuse for us to eat candy and not get
diabetes.
If we can help it. Okay, we're trying our best, but hey, it is that time of year with the candy. But when it comes to people and gifts, sometimes people just
Nobody got time for that.
When it comes to those presents, sometimes people just don't care about it, but we do. That's why we're here for X. So, with that being said, we've now gone through the opening drive. Let's keep the fun going. We've got to review this week's grand champ within the CFL and see what we got here with that.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on two. Ready? Quick.
Total Football Talk Extra.
Where my dogs at? Oh, one of them's was right there. Well, I'm kind of, there we go. My finger's straightened out now. But yeah, there he is. Ryan's here. I'm here. It's time to review our pick for the dog of the week.
Dog. All right, my dog. I mentioned the aforementioned game of the week, GOT dub. Bo Levi Mitchell. Turn back the Wayback Machine. Injecting that labor daver energy into his system.
Nice.
With 362 passing yards and a touchdown, spreading it to 8 different receivers in the 2-point win over their QEW rival in Toronto, right? So, beat Bo Levi Mitchell, legendary quarterback, going to be a Hall of Famer someday in the CFL. He's my grand champ this week. And the reason why he's the grand champ is because, again, Toronto making that mistake, leaving too much time on the clock for Mr. Mitchell to do his thing. Laid him on a drive, got him to where they wanted to be, put the ball in the middle of the field. Mark Leggio kicked the game-winning field goal with a walk-off win. And now they're currently, according to the standings, where are the bloody standings? In the standings, they have 10 points with 4 games. We have 10 points with 4 games to go. Toronto has 14 points with 4 games to go. Only 4 points behind. They're 2 wins behind. 2 wins behind right now for that all-important third place to which they can get a playoff spot. And considering where they were at the beginning of the season, they were dead kitties.
Yes.
Poor kitties. They were dead kitties. But now they're alive. They're feisty. Feisty feral. They're playing like feral kitties right now. The feral kitties. And Bo Levi Mitchell and the reason why is because Bo Levi Mitchell, my grand champ of week 16 in the CFL.
Ironic enough. I mean, I'm a fan of all pets. Okay. I love pets, more so favorable more on dogs than cats. I mean, but I get along with cats and I can hang out. I can say what's up to yours and it'll be all right. But ironically enough, you saying dead kitties, we've talked about before how I've slapped the bass back in the day, played in the band for a little bit, recorded some music. The first band I was ever in, it was only a paper band. We didn't actually do anything because we were in middle school and we were stupid. But the first band that was ever formed, we had a roster, everything. We'd already, it's a wild story. I'll talk about D Willy in the evening now that I'm thinking about it. But our first band, it was called Dead Kitty. And why? Because when we were riding down the road in the school bus on the way back home, me and my homies had formed this band on paper. We saw a dead kitty laying on the sidewalk as we were rolling down the road. Oh. And my dumb expletive, let's call our band Dead Kitty. And they all loved it. So for like 8 days, our name was Dead Kitty until we disbanded. Before we even got started.
Shame.
But we didn't ever write a song. We never recorded anything. The only thing we had, and it's the way that I said it afterwards, they loved it. Our band name was Dead Kitty. And that's how we said it back then. We were like 12. Okay?
Your first album should have been called Declawed. Or Fixed.
That's perfect. That's perfect. But yes, I might have to find a way to get Dead Kitty into a short later for the contents. But when it comes to keeping things interesting, I'm going to try to do as good of a job as Ryan just did. Ryan had a great pick with his Old Man River quarterback. A man who, even though I felt like Ryan was going to say it in there, I can click it again because he was talking about somebody who literally can say this.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
That's what happens when you're talking about that quarterback. We're not going to have that many opportunities to really talk about that man. And Ryan did a great job with bringing him up. Now, my choice for Dog of the Week is a little bit different. I'm going to do something different that I have never done on Total Football Talk ever. Between 56 episodes with Cole and now the 4th episode here on X. All right. We're still going to stick with CFL, but I'm going to double down. I'm going to give you 2 picks because I want to give somebody their shine on the NFL side, just briefly, because I'm going to cover it more in another show. That I think you get where I'm coming from with this. But for the CFL pick, I'm going to go with the man who was just picked up, a man that you had talked about earlier, Ryan, that was literally released and then signed to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And that man is Raquel Armstead, because without his production in this past game, I don't think they win this game this past Friday night against the Stampeders. I think the Stampeders would have won, and it would have been ugly because they have had issues, like we talked about earlier, establishing the run without AJ Alouette. And they bring in Raquel Armstead. The man puts up 25 carries on the night for 207 yards. He doesn't get the ball in the end zone, but he set up many plays. Shea Patterson wouldn't have had his 2 rushing touchdowns if it wasn't for Raquel Armstead.
Nope.
They wouldn't have been able to utilize the play action passing calls that they had throughout the game had it not been for the effectiveness of Raquel Armstead. Looking at where he was in one system with the Redblacks, unless this is just a flash in the pan game we're only going to see once this season, which it very well could, because this, like Ryan said earlier, this season has been absolutely wild. I mean, we can't expect anything less than what we've seen at this point. I mean, unless we see something different, I'm going to go with this man's going to provide a spark to this team for the rest of the season to maybe give them a shot at what I was talking about for week 1. Don't think so, but at least gives us hope for those of us out there who love saying the Rough Riders. Yeah. Now, I don't want to get too far in depth to get too excited because, again, this is first week. It's his first game. Made an impact. Congratulations. But that's why 25 carries, 207 yards on the day. You are my pick for Dog of the Week. But I'm going to go take this to the NFL for a second, even though we are primarily talking about alternative football here with Extra and maybe some other showcase and stuff throughout the NFL season once we get through the CFL season. But I want to take a look back at somebody who had a monster Monday night. A kid who set records in this game, Ryan. A kid who had a 91 overall QBR. The only time a rookie has ever had a 91 QBR on that stage in this, platform known as the NFL. I'm talking about Jaden Daniels here. The man is on the road, and I say man because he is yes, he's a kid in age, just comes out of college, a lot of hype, Heisman Trophy, okay? Comes into Washington, a team that has been playing like absolute dumpster Pelicans for a while now. Okay, we had the breaking news earlier, already had announced about me going to go see them play the Bears at FedEx next month. But here and now, I got to give it to Jaden Daniels for what he did mother-fathering Monday night. Look at what he did. 21 of 23. Only missed 2 passes on the day. Okay. Then he has 2 touchdown passes, and all that comes with 254 passing yards. And I'm not even mother-fathering done, y'all. All right? Got to talk about the fact that he put some production on the ground as well. He had 12 carries on the night for 39 yards and a touchdown. And am I getting amped up? Yes. Because for many years, I've heard about we them boys and fly, Eagles, fly, and the G-Men. Yeah, take all that out. Side, and you do whatever you want with it, because it is now time for the era of the commies, and they're going to play well enough to where at some point what's underneath this arm may come back home. Mark my words, they may eventually go back to being known as the unformally known, now just the known Redskins. Yes, I know how to spell, but for your sensitivity, for those of you out there who are sensitive about it, I'm not going to say the name. I'm just going to spell it out to help you feel good inside. All right? Iron sharp as steel, motherfather. Now, back to the program as Ryan McCarthy is back. My 2 picks for the Dog of the Week again. Raquel Armstead of the CFL and Jaden Daniels of the NFL for the Commanders, who could, as we see, be putting together one phenomenal Rookie of the Year type season. And we're only 3 weeks in, so it's a little early, but so far I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah, Jalen Daniels is playing rather impressively for his first 3 games of the season, especially last week against Cincinnati. Had a tremendous touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin to basically close out the game, doing things with his feet, doing things with his arm. That's exactly why the Commanders are where they are, and they have a good chance to go 3-1 this week and stay up top of the NFC Beast. So, hey, congratulations to Jalen Daniels. Congratulations to your Commanders.
Thank you, sir. And you were just talking about me earlier, giving me props. I got to give you some too. It is nice to see both of our teams in the first month of the season. One, your quarterback's still healthy and still in there and looking like the Aaron Rodgers of 10 years ago. Okay. The fact that he turned back the clock and was moving around like he did last week was phenomenal to watch too. So I hope you have the same success carried on, and I hope we get to see both of our teams make a playoff run. I'm not going to go that far fetched yet because we're only a few weeks in. I'm not giving any huge takes on that, but I'm just saying, what if after all the crap we put up with last year, with you with the quarterback situation and the overall team morale for years prior and the majority of your life, okay? And me too, the last time my team won a Super Bowl, I was 5 years old. Okay?
I wasn't even born yet.
It was you with the Jets for you, yeah. But for me, I have lived to see 2 Super Bowls, but I don't even remember them because, again, I was still crapping Huggies for the first one that I was alive for, which was their second Super Bowl. And I was only like a year old. I was still an infant, okay? And the next one they won, I was 5 and in kindergarten, okay? So, I mean, no, I was in preschool. I was that young. I was 5 and in preschool. Holy crap, I feel old now, okay?
You feel old.
Yeah, I mean.
I was in middle school.
Wow, man. Yeah. I was barely out of Huggies and you were far from it. But anyway, when it comes to that is our take on our picks for the dog of the week. And now it's time for my next favorite part of the week, the snowflake of the week.
Total Football Talk Extra.
Oh, yeah, get your tissues. It's time for the snowflake of the week. And with his pick for the snowflake of the week, I sent it to Ryan.
Well, I was going to say the Calgary Stampeders defense, but that would be beating on a dead horse.
I don't have that transition for this one. We got to keep some things sacred to certain things.
That's true. But my pick this week, I'm going to go with another quarterback for my snowflake of the week. Trey Ford of the Edmonton Elks. Disappointing effort. 131 passing yards, 2 picks, a touchdown. He looked, didn't look like the quarterback he was when he was inserted into the lineup by Jarius Jackson earlier this season. And part of that has to do with the Winnipeg's defense. Even with all the injuries they've had, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are still doing their thing. Adam Big Hill's out for the year. He's basically the captain of that team. But even without their best personnel, both on offense and on defense, Winnipeg is still playing really well. And it's been showing with this 6-game winning streak and winning 8 of the 8 of the last 10.
Absolutely.
But Trey Ford, disappointing effort in the place of McLeod Bethel-Thompson, who had an injury, did not play this game. Coming off a bye week, too. He had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. And unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. And had a disappointing performance. Wasn't able to do a lot with his arm or his legs. And it was just I was very disappointed. The fact that he had the game that he had on Saturday night. And unfortunately, it's a setback for the Elks. They were trying to get to the playoffs. They were just a couple steps behind Saskatchewan. Had an opportunity to keep pace. 2 rushes, 9 yards. So in addition to the 131 passing yards, and he was 10 of 17. Yikes. So So 10-17 for 131 yards, plus 2 of 9 on the ground. And I think part of it was the fact that Justin Rankin had himself a night. But if Trey Ford were to use his legs more, if they had more run design plays for Trey Ford to use in this game, I think Edmonton would have won this game. Edmonton would have won instead of the bit disappointing 13-point loss that they had. So unfortunately, my snowflake of the week, it goes to Trey Ford. And I'm hoping that they can pull off the next 4 games and they can go on a bit of a streak to end the season and earn themselves a playoff spot. But at this point, I think it might be too late for them. And this game kind of was a stinker for them, and part of it was because of Trey Ford's performance.
I like your take. I really do. And you picked somebody who affected the team to the point to where they lost the game. Okay. And I'm going to do the same. And this time there's no double downs. It was just that great of a statistical numbers for Jaden Daniels. I had to do that with the dog of the week. But for this one, for the snowflake of the week, I am staying all the way in the CFL, and I'm going to give it to someone that's not going to surprise Ryan. Somebody whose name I butchered several times. Okay, and I'm about to butcher it again. I'm talking about a kicker who was 3 of 4 on the day and affected his team because they lost by 2 points. Had he made that 4th field goal, they would have won the game. I'm talking about Liram. Yes, that's the best way I can put it, because Honolulu,
that's how he played.
Here a Lozenger. I'm doing the best I can to put it together. I got to go back and watch that clip with Ryan was teaching me how to say it, so that way I can practice like I'm practicing for a spelling bee or something like that to get this man's name right. Liram, if you saw the clip on YouTube or TikTok from the reel, I'm sorry, bro. Okay, I'm doing the best I can. At least I got your first name right. Okay,
Hey.
But if you want me to get your name right, you need to put a little bit more effort into getting the kick through the uprights, because had you done that, you would have won this game. And I wouldn't even have talked about you right now for the snowflake of the week, but I'm talking about you because you missed that 4th field goal. And there's been times throughout this season where I've praised you. I've praised you, even though I couldn't say your name right. I've praised you by saying, hey, there were some games that were affected that the Argonauts won because they were rotating quarterbacks for the first 2 months until Chad Kelly came along. All right. And you were keeping them in the games. Kind of like, what we saw, in the UFL with the man with the Michigan Panthers. I talked about him so much during the UFL season. Jake
Bates.
Jake Bates. I knew his first name. I couldn't think of his last name, but it's like you didn't have that type of impact on the game as far as winning, but you're having just as much of an impact when it comes to mother-fathering losing. Okay? So, Liram, and tighten up. Not even going to try to say your last name again, but just know you are the snowflake of the week there, sir. With that being said, it's time to transition from the snowflake of the week to the 2-minute drill.
Total Football Talk Extra.
It's mother-fathering time for the 2-minute drill, as we are here for a review of Week 17. Week 17 looks like this. Friday, tonight, here in about 1 hour, we have the Edmonton Elks taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, a rematch from last week, but it's at a different place. It's in Winnipeg instead of Edmonton. We also have to talk about the game after that at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, as the Hamilton Tiger Kitties look to keep the winning streak alive and the momentum going strong against the BC Lions as they are on the road in British Columbia for that game. These are the 2 Friday night games tonight, followed by tomorrow's 2 games. The first one at 3 o'clock, we've got the Ottawa Redblacks traveling to Saskatchewan to take on the Roughriders. We'll see how that goes right there. Followed by the final Saturday game. I messed up with a typo there. It is not Sunday. It is Mother Fathering Saturday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time between the Alouettes of Montreal traveling to Toronto to take on the Argonauts. Ryan, let's take a look at this first game right here. Let's look at the Edmonton Elks, who are 5-9, taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who are 2 games over 500 now at 8-6 tonight. Here in about an hour, who do you have?
You know, I thought about this game. McLeod Bethel Thompson's going to be in this game. They're going to throw the ball. Edmonton's going to throw the ball around. It's going to be flipped up. It's going to be flipped up on its head this week with Edmonton. I think they're going to throw the ball more. Yeah, they'll have Justin Rankin doing his thing on the rushing attack, but McLeod Bethel Thompson's going to want to throw the ball around. I think they're going to do that. However, it's a battle, not one but 2 opponents in this game. At the battle, the Blue Bombers. The Blue Bombers crowd. The Blue Bombers crowd, if you've been to Princess Auto Field, yes, that's the name of the field, Princess Auto Stadium, it gets loud. It's going to be a sellout crowd. It's going to be loud. They're going to want to, the Blue Bombers will want to, they're going to want to win in front of their home fans, earn a playoff spot. This is the prime time to do it. This is the time to do it. They've won 8 out of 10. They've won 6 in a row. And then they keep the momentum going. So I think Brady Oliveira is primed for another big game. And that's the one thing. And I got to figure, going back in my mind, the one thing that Winnipeg did last week was that they kept the ball on the ground, because we know Zach Cloros, not Zach Cloros, but the Edmonton Elks, they got ball hawks. We saw it, and during their winning streak, their winning streak, they can get the ball, but I think Winnipeg's going to keep on the ground again. I think Coloris is going to make those passes when he needs to, not not because he has to. And I think I'm going to go with Winnipeg, and I think Edmonton. I think their time might be. I think the Sands running. The Sands going through the hourglass clock, and I think their time's going to run out, unfortunately. So I'm taking Winnipeg in this game.
And I don't disagree with you at all based on what we had talked about with the previous game from the week prior. I'm going to side with you here and go with the Blue Bombers. Blue Bombers will improve to 9-6. Elkamos will fall to 5-10. We'll see how the rest of the year transpires for these 2 teams.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Do have to say, we did forget to mention that there is a team on bye this week for week 17. And it's good for us to not have to watch them. The Calgary Stampeders are 4-9-1. Okay. Nice. So, yes, the 4-9-1 Stampeders are on bye this week as we take it to our next Friday night game.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
So, the Hamilton Tiger Kitties, who are now 5-9, along with the Edmonton Elks, who we just talked about, travel to British Columbia to take on the BC Lions, who were on bye last week, well rested for a team that is 7-7 tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Who do you have winning this game there, sir?
Well, the Lions announced this week that they made a decision at quarterback. They're going with Rourke again.
Yeah. When do we get Vernon Adams Jr., bro?
I don't know. They're going back to Rourke.
Did he sleep with the owner's wife or something? Like, what is going on? Like, why is he not playing?
That's a great question.
He was the top of the league when he got hurt.
Yeah.
MVP candidate. You and I were saying it enough. What is happening?
What is going on? But they're going back to Nathan Rourke. And I can't figure out the BC Lions. They were playing like we talked about this in week 2. Or week 2 or 3. We talked about them being a perennial Grey Cup team. But here's the thing with the Lions. They either beat the brakes off their opponents, or they lay down. And they show the other teams their neck. They're so streaky. And Nathan Rourke had a really bad game against Toronto a couple weeks ago. And so did Vernon, and so did Vernon Adams as well. But they got to figure things out. Rick Campbell's got to figure things out with the defense. with the offense. And the Tiger Cats have been playing much more. They've been playing better. They've been playing better ball. Their defense has stepped it up. I think if him and Bo Levi Mitchell's been playing really well too. This month, September, has been a revelation for them. So I know I'm gonna get the surprise face for this, but I'm going with the Tiger Kitties in this game. Like I said, I don't know which BC Lions team is going to show up. We could. I'll take the pie face if I'm wrong, and BC absolutely shatters the Tiger Cats. But I can't figure BC. I can't figure BC out. And this is the year that they host the Grey Cup. They host the Grey Cup this year, and they have spent hella dollars trying to put a team together that will hopefully play in BC at BC Place on November 17th. But I can't figure this team out for the life of me. So I'm going to go with Hamilton in this game.
Ryan McCarthy, give me this microphone. All right. You bring up a lot of good points with that. Like I'm not going to go that hard with this because I mean we just saw what the Tiger Cats did last week. We're just breaking that down. They made the game of the week. So, respectfully, I'm not going to go that far into it. But when it comes to the BC Lions, even though they have not had the same identity as they had with Vernon Adams Jr. before he got hurt, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here because the Tiger Cats are just so hot and cold. Like they're not consistent. You don't know what you're going to get each game, and it depends on what their matchup is. And we can say the same for the BC Lions over the past month. But considering the fact that they're at home, and I can't agree with you on everything, or this show would be mother-fathering boring, okay? Like, I have to disagree with you at some point. Okay. And, I mean, if people look at it and do this, I mean, I can't help it.
Oh, you're fucking scared! Yeah, you're fucking scared, man!
I don't want to mother-father and scare you, bruh. I don't want to. But right here, right now, I got to disagree with you, and I got to say, that I'm going to go with the BC Lions at home, 10:30. It's a different time. It's a different era. You're in British Columbia. It's time to lose if you're a Tiger Cat. All right, Tiger Kitty. Because this is Total Football Talk Extra. And we don't hold back. All right, then. Now, let's go ahead and take it to the next game. But before that, we got some comments from our man, Sick Diggy, that we got to acknowledge. And I don't want to leave him hanging out here because it has been a little bit since we acknowledged him. And we don't have much longer left on the show, so we got to give him some credit while we can. Next week's CFL predictions are brought to you by Slackjaw VPN. The VPN for slacking off. Slackjaw VPN, where the slacking be smooth. Speaking of this upcoming spooky, anybody bumping some Smashing Pumpkins, or at least smashing some pumpkins in jack-o'-lanterns? This sounds like a good time. Smash some pumpkins, no matter if you're listening to them or actually smashing the pumpkin.
Oh, despite all my rage, I'm still just a football talk host in a cage.
Nice supplementation for the rat. I like it. Very good, Ryan McCarthy. I was picking up what you were throwing down. Well played. On a different note, I can understand Jules Winfield's Samuel L. Jackson's frustrations in that scene. We'll give it to you one more time.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
There it is.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Dropping dimes in the comments, and I'll drop some dimes with some clips for you, bruh. Now, back to the comments. Speaking of this upcoming spooky season, that's what he meant to say. And his last one so far is at Drew Willingham needs to find a Shane Hurricane Helms. What's up with that clip?
Hurricane season.
Did I at least say it close to what Hurricane Helms would say it back in the day in the Attitude Era? What's up with that? Like, it was close. Maybe. Close. See. It goes to show my fanhood out here with professional wrestling. But so far, we have covered the first two games, which are tonight's games. It's now time to take it on into tomorrow's games for Saturday and see what we have in store for that.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Ottawa Redblacks, 5-1, travel to Saskatchewan. Take on the Roughriders, who were 6-7-1 tomorrow afternoon at 3:00 p.m. Eastern time. Ryan, I hope you picked the right team here, because you see how amped up I get. I'm getting even more elevated every time I say the Roughriders name in this episode. Who are you choosing for this first of 2 Saturday games?
Well, this is the rematch of their draw a couple months ago. I look, Saskatchewan needed a bye week, and they needed to gain some confidence against Calgary. It's evident that the Roughriders have had, after a fast start, 5-1, they go 1-6-1 after that. Not great, but they face an Ottawa Redblacks team they're hurting a little bit right now, and we don't know who's going to be starting a quarterback, whether it be Drew Brown or Jeremiah Masoli or Mudeng, the pygmy hippo. We're not sure who's going to start for them in week 17. But with Rykel Armstead in the backfield and Trevor Harris tossing the ball around, I have a newfound confidence in this Roughriders team. So I'm picking the Roughriders in this one. Be a close game, but I think it's going to be the Roughriders.
I'm glad that we get to agree again, because I, for the first time in a while, not only getting amplified about the Roughriders, but picking them to win. Because, I mean, you can attest to it. I mean, the first 2 episodes of this show, even on the main show, the Total Football Talk, I have been kind of steering away from that for a little bit based on how the downfall's been. But I just have a feeling it's a home game. Who they're playing at home with the Redblacks and the struggles they're having at quarterback, and the fact that they let go of their number 1 running back, and it's not paying huge dividends for them. So putting all that together, and again, it's a home game, I feel like they're going to get one step closer to having a winning record. They'll improve to 7-7-1 with this win, and still be in communication with many others about the potential of making the CFL playoffs. It's not completely outruled yet, but with each and every loss that they sustain going forward, it gets more and more likely that they're not going to make it. So they have to win this game. They absolutely have to win this game. And I'm going to continue to be on them like white on rice until they get their expletive together, because how they have been the past month and some change in comparison to how they were the first couple months has been a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
It's like, they needed to literally do this.
Stop it. Get some help.
And they did with the signing of Rykel Armstead, and it paid off dividends in the first game. If they can carry that momentum from last week into tomorrow afternoon, I'm with you. I feel like they're going to get this win, and we're going to see people, in Saskatchewan feel pretty good about their team again. So that's how I feel when it comes to the Saskatchewan Roughriders and what we're going to see tomorrow.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
In our last game of the week, tomorrow night, 7:00 p.m. Eastern time, the Montreal Alouettes, who are 11-2-1, travel to Toronto to take on the Toronto Argonauts, who are 7-7. With what we saw in this past game, with what Liram did, okay, we talked about Liram. Talk about him a little bit more if you want, but based on what he did, do you think he's going to be an X factor in this game like he has been in many Toronto games throughout the 14 games they played already? Or will we see Chad Kelly really step it up and beat the other team that we are seeing in this graphic, known as the number 1 team, the Alouettes?
This is a tough game for me to pick for several reasons, and one of them being that Toronto's coming off a close loss. This was a game that they could. Last week was a game they could have won. They could have won that game if the defense just got enough. If they made one play. If the defense made one play on that final drive by Hamilton, they would have won this game. They're facing an Alouettes team who their defense is coming into this game playing very, very well coming up on the final 4 games of the season. Offense, I feel like they need to do a little bit more. I think Montreal needs to take some more chances. I know Tyson Philpott being injured for the rest of the season is a huge loss. Austin Mack still on the IR. I don't know when he's coming back. But they're doing what they can. Their offense is doing what they can. Their defense is going to do what they can. Even against a Toronto team, a Toronto offense that can spread the ball around. Chad Kelly can spread the ball around. Chad Kelly can also do some stuff with his legs as well. But I think at the end of the day, Montreal's defense is gonna make life, I wouldn't say miserable for Chad Kelly, but they're gonna do their thing. I think Montreal wins this, and I believe if they win and Ottawa loses, they clinch home field in the playoffs. The home field on the East, they are in the first round bye. So I think Montreal offense will do just enough. Their defense will close it. Will clinch things. Will just make life difficult for Chad Kelly. It's gonna be this will be a close game as well, but I'm taking Montreal in a very close game.
Yeah.
You bring up a lot of great points there, and based on what the Argonauts did in last week's game, I can't disagree with you except for on one thing. I think that the outcome that you predicted is going to happen. The Alouettes are going to win, but I don't think it's going to be that close. I mean, they lost by 2 points to a team that's been absolutely dumpster pelican worthy all year long in the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Okay, yes, they've had some flashes in the pan since Labor Day. All right, I mean, and what they've been doing in that time span. We talked about Bo Levi Mitchell stepping it up, but what they've done throughout the other 6 losses and what they've exposed on film, and you're playing the number 1 team in the league. I agree with you that they're going to lose to the team, but I don't think that it's going to be that close. I think that it's going to be at least 7 to 10 point difference. I could be wrong. I mean, you are the CFL master, and if I'm wrong, I'll gladly take the L next week, which I got to get that transition up here too. But when you put all that in perspective and you think about it, you bring up some very good points. And I won't be surprised based on the facts you provided if that happens. But my gut feeling tells me that it's not going to be as close. And, we're going to see the Argonauts potentially get treated to this.
I'm Wilfred Brimley, and I'd like to treat you to diabetes. Diabetes.
Getting treated to it because they're going to be fed a lot of sugar tomorrow night. And that's what's happening out here in the CFL for these 4 games this week. That is your 2-minute drill. It is now time to take us to the last part of the show, and that is to the post game.
Total Football Talk Extra.
As long as it's one. That's great.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at that point in the show where we give you our final thoughts to round out the episode. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start off with our guy, Ryan McCarthy.
All right, so I'm going to switch things up a little bit since this is Total Football Talk Extra. And we talk a little bit about the alternative leagues on this particular program. I want to talk a little bit about Arena Football 1. I am currently wearing, take my microphone away. I'm currently wearing an Albany Firebirds t-shirt.
As he covers them. Fire.
As I do, cover the Firebirds on No Credentials Required. Shameless plug. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. Come join us. Ding! Ding! So a few weeks ago, I was listening to a local program hosted by my friends Levac and Gaz, and Jeff Levac is the president of said Albany Firebirds. He announced in the program that the Albany Firebirds were leaving the Arena Football League, jumping to a new league. Don't know what that league was going to be. Were they going to join the National Arena League? Were they going to join the Indoor Football League? Were they going to join another offset league that nobody's ever heard of? We don't know. But then the next week, we find out that the 8 surviving teams that played last season in the Arena Football League jumped ship from their investors at G6. G6 Sports and Entertainment, and they founded their own LLC called Arena Football One. And those 8 teams will be playing next year, including my Albany Firebirds. They kept a lot of the same leadership that they had to stabilize the season last year in the Arena Football League. CEO is still Jerry Kurz. The commissioner is Jeff Fisher. Yes, Mr. 8-8 is the commissioner of AF1. And Jared Widman is the president of the league. So as of today, as of September 10th, they have 11 teams. They have the original 8 teams that were from last year in the Arena Football League. They added a team in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. They also added a team in Monterrey, Mexico. And they haven't announced it yet, but they're going to probably announce the formation of the Arizona Bandits, who will play in Phoenix, Arizona next season. So that's TBA.
Nice.
The Wilkes-Barre team doesn't have a name yet. Oh, they also added the Stockton Crusaders from Stockton, California. They'll be playing the league next year. So right now, the league has 11 teams. They're going to be hopefully adding more. They had league meetings this week in Chicago, and I think the league's going in a positive direction. I think they stabilized things last year. They saved the season last year in AFL, and they brought in some very wise people who can put this league in a good direction. They're hopefully going to have. They believe they're also going to offer the highest paying structure for all indoor and or arena football leagues that are currently going right now. They're going to hopefully in the next couple of weeks announce a broadcast partner. So last year they got the CBS Sports Network to jump on board. They showed the playoff games. They showed the Arena Bowl, which was played at the American Dream in New Jersey. But I think this new league that's kind of offset from the Arena Football League, which thankfully did not go down in a complete flaming heap with an absentee commissioner and 8 teams being eliminated. I think it's gonna. I got nothing but good things to think about for next season. The 2025 season is going to start in April. I'll be there for the Albany Firebirds games. I could be covering them I'll be covering them again next year, and it was a real treat last year to see what the Albany Firebirds did in the field, and I'm going to see them again next year. But in general, I think AF1's going to compete for the attention and the eyes of people who want to watch alternative football. Like myself, I'm an alternative football, covering the CFL. I've been an arena football fan since I was 12 years old, watching the OG Albany Firebirds play at the then Knickerbocker Arena. Now it's the MVP Arena in Albany. So I got some high hopes for Arena Football One. They've stabilized themselves. They got some expansion teams on the way. Hopefully they'll announce another expansion team pretty soon, and we'll see 2025 be relatively problem-free, unlike 2024 where we saw disaster after disaster. So here's to hoping, and hopefully 2025 will kick off without any incident.
Well, coming with the motive of straight selfishness, I hope that you do get back in, because I want to see your content. It's absolute fire. So it's a different perspective on what the cookie cutter football analysis is from the major networks, if you know what I'm saying. Plus, the major networks don't even cover it. So
yeah, and know who I want to see back in arena football?
Not Antonio Brown.
Not Antonio Brown. No, definitely not him. I want to see the Washington Valor come back, because that was a great rivalry. You're Washington. They played at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. So, yeah, I think you need a team back in Washington that you need to cover.
Yeah, that would be nice. It would be a nice little change, for myself. As once I finally get acclimated to this new schedule I'm on, I'll have that extra free time to be able to do that. But right now it's just not in the cards. Maybe for 2025, but for 2024, we're just going to ride it out with where we're at and fit some new things as we go for me and the team. But Ryan, great analysis on your post game, and I'm gonna go ahead and send it home real quick for us. And with that being said, I gotta thank Ryan again for taking the time to be on here. I clicked the wrong button again. I'm still figuring this thing out. There's certain buttons. So there we go. And then Ryan's there. Ryan does that button a lot. Let's go back to this one. All right, we're back to here. Let's live and go with this one. So, this week, CFL, very interesting. Like Ryan said, it's been an absolute wild season. Unpredictable in certain ways we predicted the teams to go. They've done a complete 180. And then there's been other ones that we've been spot on about, mainly Ryan with his takes on how things have gone through now 16 weeks. We're only like 34 minutes away from week 17 kicking off with these two games happening tonight. It will be very interesting. Look forward to catching the highlights of them, as here in a little bit I'll be going to work after I have to do one more podcast. Before I do that, I'm going to fit Commander's Gridiron Report in before I go, as I've got a lot I want to get out, and it's going to be tough for me to fit it in tomorrow. So that is an announcement that you have now. Commander's Gridiron Report will immediately follow this, probably about 10 minutes or so after this show concludes. But look forward to seeing what happens in week 17. Look forward to seeing what we have for analysis and recaps and previews and things when we come back next week. We will be back at our normal time at 5 o'clock. Today was on me. I apologize. Overslept a little bit from a nap, and that's why we got a little bit of a late start. But I also want to thank Ryan again for working with me, being flexible in the time to actually make this show happen today. As last week, got through it, but it was not like it rolled through today. I mean, we did an hour longer today on this episode than I did by myself last week. So this goes to show how much, a team dynamic can help carry the content throughout a production. And this was a night and day experience between doing it with just myself last week and then having someone here this week to talk CFL football. And if you
can't handle the truth,
I'm sorry, do this for my ability to click buttons.
Acknowledge me.
There's the shenanigans that you have for this episode. Glad that we were able to do it again with the McCarthy man himself. And again, as we do with the end of every single show, we only have one more thing that's really left to do, and that's look at one badass outro by the man, myth, and legend, Cole Johnson. Please, everyone, as always, have fun out there, but as always, mainly, stay safe out here in these streets. You don't have to go home, but you got to get your cell phone up out of here. We'll see you next week for episode 5.